Hello everyone, welcome to Storytime with Coach. It became a regular part of our practices when I was coaching that my athletes would say, "Tell us a story, Coach." Having been here since the world was still black and white, I've acquired quite a few experiences to share. It's Memorial Day, and I was looking at my logbook from my time flying in the military, specifically flying off carriers in the Navy. October 14th of 1994 was my last flight with my squadron in Japan. Now, I don't know what the tradition is today, but back in my day, the last flight you had in a squadron, basically you were given a crew, an airplane, and whatever you wanted to do. So go off and have a great time and come on back and we'll celebrate your leaving the squadron and moving on to bigger things. My choice was pretty straightforward. I wanted JP as my pilot, and I wanted to go rage around off the coast of Japan. And so that's what we did. We briefed up, we manned up, and we spent 2 hours dive bombing Japanese trawlers and fishing boats and flying around the islands south of Tokyo Harbor. And it was just awesome. It was a great day. It was a lot of fun. And, we came back. I got hosed down by a Japanese fire truck on the flight line, and off to the officers' club we went to celebrate with the whole squadron. At the same time that JP and I were out having a great time flying off the coast, a section of A6s from VA 115 was out flying on the orange low level. All the low level routes in Japan were color coded, and the orange route was one of the better routes. It was a beautiful route, had a lot of interesting terrain, varying from being down along the coast and seeing the rice paddies to mountainous terrain to lakes up by the mountains. And in one spot it had a 135-degree turn in it that was right over a lake and basically turned right at one side of the lake was a mountain. Now the section of A6s that were on this low level was made up of 2 lieutenants in the front airplane, and the skipper of the squadron was in the trailing plane about 1 mile behind him. Now, both of these guys I'm not going to name out of respect for the families, but every air wing has 1 or 2 JOs that everybody likes. This pilot and BN were those 2 guys. Everybody liked them, myself included. So going into this turn, this hard turn into this lake, the lead plane with these 2 lieutenants overbanked. And by overbanked, I mean when they started to turn, their top wing got over the fuselage of the airplane, so their lift vector was actually pointing downhill. In less than a couple of seconds, they hit the ground going full speed. They were probably doing somewhere between 400 and 500 knots. The airplane, of course, disintegrated as soon as it hit the ground, and parts of it traveled miles away from where the primary impact was. Of course, this happened right in front of their skipper in the back plane, and there's nothing that he could do about it. There was no ejection attempt, and I doubt that the guys honestly even knew that they had overbanked and they were heading for the ground. They were simply here 1 second and gone the next, and it happened that quick. Word reached us at the officers' club there in Atsugi that these 2 guys had been lost, that a plane had crashed, and that's all the information we had at the time. But the second that I heard it, the very next thing I heard is something that I wish that nobody, and myself included, ever had to hear, because God's Holy Spirit immediately convicted me. He said, "You fool! You ate with these guys. You flew with them. You cruised with them. You flew combat with them. You did all these things with them. You went out in ports with them. You thought they were great guys, but you never told them about me. They didn't know me, and now they're gone, and there's nothing you can do about it." In the Bible, Psalm 90 is attributed to Moses. In verse 12, it says, "Teach us to number our days, that we may gain a heart of wisdom." And there's a lot of significance in that, of numbering your days. You only have so many days, and what are you going to do with them? The question is, what are you going to do with your life? Are you going to make it count? Are you going to do things that are important? Are you going to do things that aren't important? Now, there's plenty of time for playing games or so-called wasting time and just taking a break from life and just enjoying whatever it is that you want to enjoy. But the reality is that so many of us waste a lot of our time in our life, and we don't number our days, and we don't appreciate just how valuable the time that we have is and what we can do with it. In Psalm 139, which is a psalm of David, David was acutely aware that God was protecting him and keeping him safe. But he made the point that in your book are written all the days that were ordained for me, when as yet there were none of them. He didn't know how many days he had, and he lived to be about 85, but he didn't worry about it. He trusted God, that God was going to take care of him and protect him, and that God already knew the end of his book. And so he praised God, and he used all of the days that he had in his life constructively for God. Well, that doesn't mean he didn't fall down and he didn't do some terrible things, and he certainly did. He failed miserably with Bathsheba when he committed adultery, and he committed murder to cover it up. He wasn't perfect, but he understood that our days here are numbered. And the question is, what are you going to do with the days, and what are you going to do with the time that you've got? J.R. Tolkien wrote in his Lord of the Rings trilogy a scene that happens between Frodo and Gandalf. Gandalf is talking with Frodo about the bad things that are about to come upon them. And this was so good in the movie. Frodo says, "I wish that this had not happened in my time." And Gandalf replies, "So do I, and so do all who live to see such times. But that's not for them to decide. All we have to decide is what we do with the time that's given us." Bingo! My question for you is, are you going to make your time valuable? Are you going to make it useful? Are you going to reach out to people who don't know the Lord? Are you going to reach out to people and show them that there's more to the end of the story? The story doesn't end when we die. The question is, where is your story going to continue? Is it going to continue in the kingdom and in heaven, or is it going to continue in a place where it's 8 million degrees in the shade and there's no shade? It was a terrible and a horrific lesson for me that I didn't talk to these guys who were my friends and share with them what was really important. If I had known that their time was that short, if I had truly known, I would have said something, but I didn't. And the problem with that is that because we don't know, we sit back and we think we get all the time in the world. We're in our 20s. We get all the time in the world to take care of this. But that's not true. And it causes us, when we think that way, it causes us to not take the opportunities that are before us. And that leads to eternal consequences. That day was the day for them to leave this place. But I didn't know that. Neither did they. Almost 31 years have gone by since that time. And now I find myself in the second half of life. And I count my days a little more closely now. And I pay more attention to opportunities that come before me to talk to other people about things that are really important. Some of that willingness to share just comes from being older and not caring as much about what other people think, especially when it's negative. But some of it comes, and a lot of it actually comes from, I don't want to hear the Lord be disappointed with me again, that I didn't take opportunities that He put before me and put me in positions to talk to people that I run into, and I failed Him. And I failed them. If you know the Lord, I hope that you take away from today's story encouragement to be bold yourself, to stand up and to say things to people who don't know Him, or to be an example to the people around you. And if you don't know Him, I plead with you to ponder the question, what comes next? And if today's the day that I take my last breath here, what's after that? I encourage you to talk to others that you may know that know the Lord, or to get a Bible and start reading. You can start reading anywhere, because the Lord can talk to you through that if you're willing to listen to Him. I hope you take encouragement from today's story from my life and the experiences that I had, and I hope that they show you a better way to do it than I did. Thank you for listening, and I hope that you have just an awesome and a blessed day.